You probably all saw this one coming a mile away, right? Yes, much like how I redid the Fists Only run when the Oblivion remaster dropped earlier this year, I figured it would also be fun to do something similar for my one and only individual Snake Eater run. That said, I have decided to up the ante this time around. Not only are we going to run through the entirety of MGS3 without snacking on any of the local plants or animals, but we will also be going for the Foxhound rank at the same time. For those of you who watch these but have no previous Metal Gear experience, and I know you are there, let me quickly explain what the Foxhound rank entails. To achieve the highest rank, we must finish the game on either Extreme or European Extreme difficulty, without getting spotted, without killing anybody, put a big asterisk next to that one, without dying or continuing after a fail state, less than 20 serious injuries, less than 5 total life bars worth of damage over the run, no life medicines used, no special items used, and finally, it all must be done in under 5 hours. It seems intimidating at first, but a few of those requirements aren't as scary as they seem. For example, beating the game in under 5 hours is incredibly generous if you are being smart and skipping all of the cutscenes. They also remove the 25 save limit due to Delta having autosaves. It's not that big of a deal breaker if I'm honest. 25 saves was way more than enough for it to ever be a major sticking point of the rank before. That said, any save limit seems like a lot coming off of MGS2, which gave you a grand total of 8. The no eating part will just stand to make getting through this more tedious, as the drawbacks of not having your 3 meals a day are the same as the original. Slower healing, a growling stomach which can alert enemies to your presence, and hands that will shake like Snake is submerged in an ice bath. There are ways to mitigate these problems, some of which I didn't use in the original run, but they aren't readily available to us until around the halfway point, so we'll be needing to make do until then. One final note, Delta's New Game Plus feature either works intentionally differently than the OG Snake Eater, or it is bugged. What I mean by that is even if you start a fresh save, you will still have most of the bonuses from your completed save file like the Patriot and certain camos. I wanted to do this as fresh as possible, so much like the last Metal Gear run, we are busting out the big Ocelot profile yet again. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Before even starting, we are hit with a very important question, that being, which Metal Gear Solid game do you like? What answer you give just determines what bonus camo or face paint you'll receive at the beginning. Fortunately, I can answer this truthfully and just say I love the entire series. Doing so gives us the grenade camo, and it will allow us to throw an infinite number of grenades while wearing it. This will only be useful for one specific boss fight, but we shall cover that soon enough. The only other thing in this setup worth mentioning is that Euro Extreme is locked behind beating the game once. The only difference between it and Extreme is that on Euro it counts as a continue when you get spotted. But seeing as getting spotted on Extreme is already a cause for a reload as you're not allowed to be spotted for the rank, it literally does not change anything when going for Foxhound, other than having to sit through a slightly longer loading screen when reloading your most recent save. Finally, into the game proper, and we are in control of Naked Jack, John, Big Vic, Boss Ishmael, Saladin, Snake yet again. I do a little tree climbing to retrieve my backpack, and then after blasting through what I believe is the longest codec call in the game, can push on through to Area 2. Not much here other than the Crocs who will leave us alone, assuming we don't stand on their tails or snouts. I also reconfigured my controls and then changed the HUD. I like the old heads-up display, and I don't know why it needed to be altered if I'm being honest. As for the controls, well, muscle memory kept messing with me, so in my first playthrough I changed them to be a little bit closer to Metal Gear Solid 5's, so mainly just the dive is on X, or square, and the crouch is back on A, or X for PlayStation. After all that's done, we come face to face with our first real enemies. Fortunately, we are only on the Virtuous mission, so all of our gear gets replaced shortly, so I don't need to worry about wasting ammo or the durability of my suppressor. 4 playthroughs in and I am still having a small bit of trouble when trying to adjust for headshots now the Mark 22 has some severe bullet drop. Not a change I hate for the record, it was kind of busted being able to snipe people with it across the map. Kinda made it the only thing you would ever need to use. So I put 2 to sleep here, then sneak past the 3rd guard. Next area, we all know how this goes, shoot down the hive, wait a few seconds until the soldiers are chased across the bridge, then follow after them to assault their comrades in Rasvet. While I may be unable to perfectly line up headshots from a distance anymore, I can still tag them anywhere else on their person and wait for the tranks to take effect the long way. Does it cut ever so slightly into my time? Yes, but as mentioned, the 5 hours they give you for Foxhound is beyond generous. I'd only be annoyed about waiting around if I was trying to speedrun this, which I am obviously not. I also probably did not need to slither around and take out every enemy around Sokolov, But better safe than sorry on Extreme, I suppose, given that all the guards have finally gotten their much needed laser eye surgery and can see something more than 20 feet away. We grab Sokolov, meet Revolver Ocelot, and then get betrayed by our mentor, and after taking a small tumble, can lick our wounds and get the real mission underway, Operation Snake Eater. Or, I suppose, given today's rules, Operation Snake would be more appropriate. Redeployed with new gear, and we stay true to our namesake as we are stripped naked of it almost immediately upon returning after running into the boss not 30 seconds after we land. We still have 3 stun grenades on our person, mind you. At this point, 2 guards rush to investigate the explosion, and they tend to hang around for a while, and that's just bad news, as it means you're more likely to be spotted. Thankfully, if we run in the opposite direction from them, we can head back to the crocodile zone from before. This will then reset the guards back to their original patrol route. Granted, I nearly got caught by the first one as he was turning around, but as it turns out, you may as well be invisible when taking cover behind trees, as they seemingly cannot see through the gaps in the branches. I knock out one of the guards and get a snazzy achievement for my efforts, and then it's back to the bridge. Not being able to rely on bee technology means we must engage our enemies the old-fashioned way this time. I know, the horror. If I was smart, I would have taken one of the many nearby animals and thrown it as a distraction to allow me to slip on by. But I didn't, so instead I waited again until they both turned to the left and then could roll down to their level and slam them both for some quick knockouts. Despite the screaming and ground quaking, number 2 is none the wiser and can be snuck up on and dealt with without issue. The only guard left is one across the bridge, and the only reason he didn't go into alert status is because I was crouched in one of the bushes. I then manoeuvred out of sight behind another tree, and then once he figured I was just a figment of his imagination, I crept up behind him to prove that these hands were in fact very real. As there's nobody in the next area, it allowed me to take a moment to grab the cardboard box and thermal goggles. I think I'll be using the box a grand total of 1 time right at the very end of the run, but I figured it was important enough to mention all the same. I'd have my Metal Gear license removed if I didn't mention the sacred box. Ocelot encounter up next, and I remember back in the day when I did my first ever Foxhound rank on the original Snake Eater, I was here for nearly an hour. Mainly it all came down to overthinking the whole thing, if I'm being honest. There's many a way to go about this, but the straightforward method of crawling around under the floorboards and firing tranks or throwing stun grenades at any legs you see works wonders. The reason this works so well is that once they're put to sleep, the other members of the unit cannot go and wake up their snoozy comrades. I'm not sure why that is the case here, but it is, and it makes this way more manageable as a result. I emerged from my hidey hole to take out the final 3, 1 is on the roof, and the last 2 are waiting in the grass near where we initially entered the map. Pushing onto the swamp, and you'll be glad to know, I remembered that bug juice was a thing this time, so dousing myself with it allows me to swim through the water without the fear of leeches. Next area introduces us to guard dogs and claymore mines. The claymores are very easy to spot even without the thermals, so you'd have to be nearly blind to stay. I drag my completely uninjured body to the nearby guards and promptly dispatch them all with headshots. Also, no, I am not sure how this dog didn't spot or get a whiff of me either. Making it to the base, which is typically one of the more open sandbox-like areas, but for us today we can just run through without a care in the world outside of like 2 guards in our path. Ammo may be looking low, but considering it's 2 boss fights pretty much back to back, the game will shower me with more trank rounds in the arenas to make sure a non-lethal victory is still possible. Not that Ocelot is much of a hassle even on the max settings. Honestly, just focusing on body shots works well enough. Sure, a headshot with the Mark 22 would do more stamina damage, but hitting him in the torso is so simple and quick to do that you don't run the risk of him firing back while you're trying to line things up. Ocelot and the Pain also have these mid-fight cutscenes that trigger the first time they do certain actions. The fun thing is you can press start during these to regain control of Snake and then just light them up while they're stuck in their animations. Another interesting tidbit, and something I didn't learn until all that recently, is that since Ocelot survives this fight to avoid a time paradox, you can just deal with him lethally as it still won't count as a kill. This goes for the first phase of Volgin's fight later on too. Also, may as well get this out of the way now as it applies to every boss bar the next one. Yes, the modern shooting controls do make the bosses much easier to deal with, as you can move, aim and shoot all at the same time with ease. The 2 sniper rifles have benefited from this the most. Well, with Ocelot put in the dirt, we hop into the dark cave, and despite what you might think, it is significantly lighter than it was 20 years ago. All you need to know about Snake's spectacular spelunking special is that I grabbed the animal's camo, as well as the shotgun and some smoke grenades. We are going to be using them in conjunction with the grenade camo right now. So, the Pain. I think it's a common opinion that he was one of, if not the most simple boss in Snake Eater. You aimed for headshots while he stood still, then switched to either one of your many grenades or shotgun to strip his hornet armor and then go back to filling him with holes, only occasionally stopping to go for a swim to avoid some of his more devastating attacks. Well, clearly the developers knew this, as he is now the biggest roadblock. I think he hits harder, seems more aggressive, and now only smoke grenades remove the armor in one go. You need 2 normal grenades for the same effect this time around. I also think the hitbox on his head may be smaller, as while I was still landing them, it felt significantly harder to land hits on his noggin than usual. Granted, in a way, I am grateful. He was kind of a pushover before. I just didn't expect him to wipe the floor with me multiple times. I guess, in some small defense of myself, I am down 1 block of stamina, so Snake's hands are starting to mildly sway in first person, plus my natural healing is going to slow. Still, those damn bullet bees tore right through me like tissue paper. The grenade camo allowed me to spam smokes to my heart's content, so really I didn't need the shotgun, and the armor was more of a mild annoyance than anything else. Multiple stupid deaths later, and I'd like to say I found some sort of incredible play that worked for me, but in actuality, I played abysmally and incredibly cautiously, and that somehow paid off. I got hit multiple times early on, missed many shots on him when he was stationary, and even got hit by one of his slow-moving grenades. Yet, while all this was going on, I was whittling him down with bug bites. Typically, 1 shot here or there before retreating to the water, so I could then swim to the opposite platform, where I could then either climb up or use it as cover if he whipped out the Tommy gun. The entire encounter lasted around 10 minutes, so it was very much a war of attrition. Snake may have come out on top, but the lasting effects of this fight will be felt for some time to come. For one, my health is concerningly low, plus I spent so much time swimming that I essentially burnt away yet another full segment of my stamina. Snake's stomach is now starting to grumble, so sneaking up on enemies for CQC takedowns to try and conserve ammo just got a tad more difficult. And, to top it off, swimming, specifically through the next section, just got more tedious, as your stamina is also your O2 gauge when underwater, meaning Snake can only hold his breath now for like 5 seconds. At the very least, after this section with the floating platforms, I don't need to engage with the swimming controls any further. So in other words,
we've managed to avoid drowning
at the warehouse, and since we aren't allowed to kill anyone, we must let the end leave without popping his clogs. However, what we can do is briefly take out the M1911 and blow up these 2 explosive barrels. This will wipe out the guards in the area, as well as hurt the end ever so slightly, meaning when we need to face him, he will have less stamina and be a bit more manageable for us. For those of you thinking I just killed my chances of the Foxhound rank for exploding those 2 soldiers, think again. Enemies killed via explosive barrels do not count towards Snake's kills. It was the same in the original, but this time we can prove it as you can check the records and titles in the pause menu, and as you can see for this current run, we have still yet to get our hands bloody. Inside the warehouse, and by positioning ourselves in this corner, we can shoot 3 of the 4 guards without being seen. Moving towards the stairs gets the attention of the 4th, causing him to very slowly make his way down to investigate. I then just wait for him to get close and rapid fire tranks until he goes down. Headshots are inconsistent now due to the unsteady hands, you see. Yes, I could switch to the animals camo I got to eliminate it entirely, but wearing it in this zone will lower my camo index to the point where that guard more than likely would have spotted me when coming down the stairs. Relying entirely on the Mark 22 has also nearly worn out the suppressor, but thankfully there is one in this warehouse, so we don't need to panic just yet. Next area is the Fierce Boss Arena, but he's running a tad late, so for now we'll go on ahead and break into the lab. The guards are spaced out far enough apart that I can dispatch them without drawing suspicion, then once I make my way inside, can swap to the scientist's outfit to slip past those indoors. I grab the cigarette gas spray, mainly for the fight with the end, but it's good to have here just in case one of the scientists looks at me for more than 2 seconds. They need to see you from the front, so I can dodge the first one by running through the room quick enough, and as for the second, well, I can just wait until he takes a seat, allowing me to jog on by. I meet up with Groznyj, get told to retrace my steps, and go about doing just that. There's a scientist right on the other side of this door, but I opened it right as he was turning his head, so he never clocked me. Now, the one who nearly saw me the first time is still here, but seeing as they need to lock eyes with Snake, I just went into first person mode and looked away from them while making my way for the exit. Chuckles has finally decided to show up, so now we get to put down another Cobra. He is much more straightforward than the Pain, thank God. In fact, I think the only difference this time is that the old stun grenade full auto weapon cheese no longer works. I mentioned it in my rapid review. On one hand, I am sad to see it go, but I completely understand them wanting to fix what was literally a bug with the game. Like usual, his invisibility means nothing to me thanks to the thermals, so he doesn't have any tricks up his sleeve. It's not a hard fight so long as you can hit him consistently. That said, he ended up grabbing a bite, so I had to drain his stamina bar 1.5 times. I would like to point out that I shot him when he was in the tree, which should have drained him and won me the fight, as well as rolling into him, which also should have knocked him out. Not quite sure what the issue was there. Regardless, it only takes like another minute to get him back to where he was and secure the victory. There is a problem though. I am now completely out of ammo for the tranq pistol. Some spawns in this area, but only during the boss fight. Afterwards, not a single round for us to grab. Now, I could quickly backtrack to the exterior of the lab as some always spawns underneath one of the trucks, but I decided not to. No reason for that other than I was being incredibly stubborn. So stubborn, in fact, I spent the next 20 minutes workshopping a way to get back through the warehouse so I wouldn't have to return to the lab. It was trial and error at its finest. There's 4 guards here, 1 on the stairs, 2 on the ground floor, and 1 pacing back and forth at the door we need to get through. I tried many things, from sneaking down and using CQC, Snake's empty tummy caused that to almost always end in failure. I tried slapping the grenade camo back on and tossing stun grenades like it was going out of style, but this always resulted in them knowing where I was somehow. I even tried briefly tossing the Fierce camo on for that 80% camo index to see if I could then sneak through. Problem is, the effect is tied to your stamina, it drains it rapidly while in use, and if you run out, the camo is disabled. As I have less than 1 bar left, I could only wear it for a few seconds. In the end, this is what got me through unseen. Upon entering the warehouse, I would move up to these railings and simply sit tight. We are waiting for this guard down below to turn around and begin his patrol. Once that happens, we quickly hop over the railings and then let go of it so that we can latch onto the ones below. I then quickly pull myself up and use a CQC takedown on the one on our level before Snake's stomach starts to rumble. I then need to very quickly head down to the ground floor before the second guard down here looks over and we are spotted. Once I make it down to the boxes, we can slip around and choke out this guy. Whenever his windpipe is non-lethally crushed, we shake him down for 8 more tranq rounds. I then immediately go prone and crawl around slowly until I'm in position to see the final 2 on patrol, at which point I just take them out as fast and safely as possible. By no means the cleanest way to bypass all this, but it worked for me, and right now that's all that matters. Finally going through the door and it's back out to a new part of the jungle. There's 2 small areas here before we meet the end, but they're rather unremarkable unless you're going for the optional log cabin area, which we are not. So I simply just wear the animal camo to line up headshots to make my life easier, then head straight for the boss fight. Now, the fun thing about the end is that he doesn't inflict any physical damage, so he can't outright kill you. Rather, his Mosin just takes a massive chunk off of your stamina bar. Consider for a moment just how low ours is, and that immediately causes a problem. Why? Well, if you run out of stamina during this fight, Snake will pass out, at which point the end will then whisk you all the way back to the cells in the lab. Not the worst thing in the world, but it is incredibly tedious. Typically, that's why most people drop a save right before this fight, so that if you do get kidnapped, you can just reload rather than having to make the trek all over again. This happens to me a few times when trying to run up the left path after making my way to the armory for a much needed resupply. With our stamina as low as it was, we literally cannot afford to get hit even a single time, so I have no choice but to very slowly backtrack and take the longer way around to get behind him. Granted, this is very much worth it. By locating the end and then slowly making your way up to him from his blind spot, you can hold him up just like you would any normal enemy. If we then keep threatening him while he is lying down, he will eventually drop his moss camo for us. More on that in a second, as for now I just drain his stamina by using the knockout gas from the cigarettes we got back at the lab. I know there was an old trick of using this along with the stun grenade to nearly take him out in one go. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that to work in Delta, but the sleepy vape cloud works well on its own regardless. Back to that moss camo, this trivializes the no eating part of the run if I'm going to be real. See, other than giving you 100% camo index in certain areas, it also allows Snake to regain stamina by being in direct sunlight. Well, actually, I'm rather certain it works with any light, as if you have that torch from the cave, you can photosynthesize off of that. In other words, by wearing it now, I am able to max out the stamina bar without ever even having to think about eating food. A lot of people brought this up in the original run, so I figured I may as well address it here. Knowing this would make things easier, that's kind of one of the reasons I also tossed in the Foxhound stipulation, to help keep things interesting. Back to the matter at hand, I need to track down the end yet again. Given that he cannot hurt me anymore due to my plant-like capabilities, the only hard part about this anymore is tracking him down over the 3 zones. The thermal goggles help to speed this along, then once I find him, I hold him up and use the gas again until I'm the victor. After this, I make sure to grab the Mosin. I cannot stress that enough. Both runs I have done involving Snake Eater in the past, I didn't grab it for one reason or another, which made the Fury more annoying than it needed to be, so I made absolutely certain that I didn't just walk on by it like a fool again. This is followed by the ever so wonderful and much parodied ladder sequence before reaching the mountains. Possibly one of the easiest areas to sneak through for being real. Well, as long as you remember to grab the animal's camo, I suppose. Its camo rating is amazing here, plus not having to worry about shaky hands is wonderful. Again, even if the Ends Moss camo makes that problem almost a non-issue now. There's also a ton of Mark 22 ammo around, so I'm free to trank to my heart's content. Although one of the guards may have taken a slight tumble and broke his neck.
FYI, not my fault.
We meet up with Eva, not that you know it, with me rapidly skipping through all of the cutscenes, and then other than knocking out one of the two flame troopers that appear in this area and nowhere else, we come face to face with the Fury. He's kind of like the exact opposite of the Pain this time around. The Fury was always considered the most difficult boss in the original, especially when going for Foxhound, given how much damage he could put out and just how unpredictable he could be. Not to mention, not being able to move when you had your Mosin equipped meant if you missed a shot, it wasn't uncommon for him to roast you while you were still probably freaking out and fumbling with the controls. In the remake though, he's kind of a pushover. The simple act of being able to fire the snipers in third person while on the move, as well as not having to fully unequip them to do so, makes it unbelievably more simple to land multiple shots and then get out before you can retaliate. You still need to be careful, mind you, as he hits as hard as before, so you might still get a crispy snake sooner than you think if you just try to rush him. But yeah, this one simple trick really did trivialize the most annoying part of the run, so in a way that's nice. I did get him first try and it only took about 5 minutes. Now, onwards to Groznyj Grad. There's a decent number of guards around given it's their main base, but I don't run, or rather crawl into any trouble on the way to Rykov. On the contrary, one of the soldiers got a glimpse of me making my way for the door and entered the caution status. It doesn't count as being spotted, but does put the guards into a more aware state as they start looking for you. This then causes Rykov to abandon his normal patrol, allowing us to rush him and put him down with Old Reliable. The rest of the guards end up eventually making their way over to him due to searching for me, but I can just give them a similar treatment as well. Once I'm sure everybody is dealt with, I hide the Major's body and assume his identity so that I may fail to rescue Sokolov successfully. This leads to Snake becoming a punching bag ever so briefly, losing his eye, and then getting tossed in a cell, as was a running bit with the old Metal Gear titles. As tempted as I was to play the revamped Guy Savage minigame, I opted to just get a move on instead. Fastest way out of the cell is turning the survival viewer into a merry-go-round so that Snake vomits on his own shoes, causing the guard to open the cell and allowing us to beat him senseless so that he won't alert the rest of the base. Also, I don't forget to grab the smoke grenades from him this time via shaking. They are damn near essential for escaping on extreme without getting spotted. Once outside, I wait for this guard to turn his back, at which point I unleash more combos until he begins to see stars. If done quick enough, I avoid getting spotted by the others on patrol, allowing me to sneak through this hole in the wall and enter the next area. Couple of guards here that are easy to avoid due to all the cover. The trick is just staying away from them, as they are more likely to be drawn to your presence due to Snake's stomach rumbling. Taking this path up around the side, we knock out yet another guard, and then can maneuver past this one through the door to the final area of the fort. This area is by far the most annoying to sneak through successfully, in the entire run, not just this section in particular. Now, some people suggest running forward and smoking the guards ahead of you, which will then give you enough time and cover to make it to the exit unseen. This never worked successfully for me. The other method involved going round the long way and behind some of the guards and then smoking them from underneath the connecting bridge. Again, that didn't exactly pan out as hoped. There was a lot of trial and error on my part here again, I won't lie. Got close a few times, but it might just be me, but the smokes don't seem to obscure the vision of enemies for as long anymore. After many attempts, here's what I found worked for me. Not the fastest method, but it seemed reliable enough that I'd try it again in another Foxhound rank. I began by running towards the guards by the tanks, getting their attention, which would then cause them to walk over to where they thought they saw me. This was helpful, but not entirely mandatory. I would then run around the outside near the dog, making sure to not get too close so that it would wake up and see me. I then pop out and begin making my way for the truck, causing this other guard to also become suspicious and come to check the area. While he was distracted, I could make my way under the bridge, and now that he was still investigating where I wasn't, I was free to use my smoke grenades on the area in front of me towards the dog and one other guard covering the exit. This gave me just enough time and distance to make my way over without being spotted, to which point I then slowly crawled to the exit, making sure not to be too hasty on the off chance one of them was looking this way. After crossing the second pipe, you're technically locked into a cutscene, so you're home free. No guards in the sewers, so nothing to worry about, plus the battle with the Sorrow is easily skipped by drowning oneself in the water. As death is the only way to get by this, it obviously does not count towards the rank requirements. Alive, again, we meet up with Eva, again, and then go to infiltrate the fort, again. We emerge back at the trucks where we spent the last 20 minutes trying to sneak past, only this time we have the Mark 22, so we can just start cutting loose. This is one of the final times we'll need to use the pistol, so I have no qualms about how much ammo I'm burning through, or how worn out the suppressor is becoming. Once the coast is clear, I head back to where we stored Rykov so that I can grab the sneaking suit and maintenance outfit. The former will be worn for the remainder of the game because
Free will is a myth.
And we all do this, whereas the latter will allow us to plant the C3 charges in the Shagohod's hangar without anybody getting suspicious. I also took a moment to grab this handkerchief beneath the desk as I had run out of cigarette juice. Hey, does this smell like chloroform to you? Once the hangar is set to blow, we get to fight Volgin. The CQC, specifically the new animations, really shine in this fight. It's fun watching Snake just go to town on him with all kinds of counters, throws, and the ever-effective roll. Much like the Fury, he still hits like a freight train, so a few mistakes will end in our death. Although I'm going to chalk them up to me mainly trying way too hard to get some of the parries, as I kind of just stood there like a deer in the headlights while he came charging at me. If I was being efficient, I probably would have used the Mosin a few times to get some easy damage off, but having fun is more important than playing well. Much like in the original run, there is not much to say about the on-rails bike chase, which follows. Simply just use your non-lethal weapons. Yes, they may tumble, crash their bikes, and combust into a small fireball, but Snake goes to the Batman school of non-lethal takedowns. He did not cause that explosion, ergo, he did not kill Batman. I tried using the Cold War camo from Volgin, as typically it'll make enemies refuse to return fire, simplifying the chase even further, but it seemed a little finicky on how it worked this go around, so I just put on the sneaking suit for the added damage reduction instead. Props to Snake for somehow making a full outfit change on a moving bike while also under enemy fire. Proper Shagohod fight now, and outside of extra health, the increased difficulty doesn't change much, if anything, so still a very one-sided battle. Having infinite ammo tends to do that though. Second phase, yeah, it's back to limited rockets, but now you're dealing with Volgin directly, so less health than a tank. Simply shoot the treads again with the RPG, then while he's stunned, stick a trunk in his head with the Mosin. Do this about 4 or 5 times and it's back to the motorcycle again. The only difference this time is now they have flying carriers, other than that it's exactly the same. I used to believe the escorting Eva segment was the worst, but truthfully it's not that bad. So long as you keep her topped up with food and make sure to shoot the squad of guards that spawn in behind you, then all is well. Also, feeding Eva does not count towards our meals eaten counter, so we're all good. It is not needed, but the thermals help out a ton here, especially in the last area where they're lying in wait. Their green uniforms are designed to blend in with the jungle after all. Most of them won't come and investigate even if you hit them with a body shot, so the simple solution is to just tag them all at least once with the tranq pistol and then wait. Once they're out of the way, Eva can safely follow you to the exit, leading to the final boss against the boss. Even more so than Volgin, this one is just a pure counterfest. Well, you can sneak up to get the jump on her yourself if you wish, or try circling around her blind spot to get some shots off, but seeing as it's so easy to get her in a loop of charging you for counters, there's no reason to not just do that. Right, so basically she runs at you right as the fight begins. Whenever she gets a hold of you, simply press the CQC button at the right time. This lets Snake counter the boss and slam her to the ground. Note that the counter window gets smaller the higher the difficulty. When she is on the ground, you can get off 3 shots with the Mosin to her head. All this together takes out 1 segment of her stamina bar. After the 3rd shot, she is invulnerable, so simply back away and take cover behind any of the numerous trees, as she will try to unload on you with her gun the second she stands up. Once she gives up on the bullets, she will begin running away. Simply run after her and close the gap. Whenever she realizes you are close, she will try to throw you yet again, to which you counter and then repeat until you win. When you get her to half, she will throw in a second attack you'll need to counter after the first, but it's not that bad. Plus, as a bonus, we get to see Snake do this little jump and twirl, and that's just wonderful. With the boss defeated, we win the game of Russian Roulette and skip the remaining scenes to be met with our well-earned Foxhound rank, where we can also see we have eaten 0 meals. Meaning, yes, you can indeed beat Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater with a Foxhound rank without eating. The no eating part went right out the window the second we got that moss camo, but it was fun to go for the Foxhound after the fact at the very least. Plus it made the portions leading up to the fight with the end more challenging than last time, seeing how I had to get past all of that without being spotted. Probably do more Metal Gear runs sometime in the future. Like, I know everyone has been dying to see me do yet another 4-hour behemoth like the other one, so we'll wait and see. But if I do, that will not be for quite some time. Regardless, that's going to be the end of the challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like. If you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to run these videos out fairly frequently. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.